slow tonight, isn't it?
Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another marvelous video. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining from 1980 is one of the most iconic horror films in cinema history. Based on Stephen King's novel, the film went through a lot of editing before its final release. Kubrick shot a lot more than what ended up on screen. Scenes that deepened the mystery, stretched the tension, or even changed the ending entirely. Some of them were cut before the film ever hit theaters, others after the film had already premiered. Today we're diving deep into every known deleted scene from The Shining, including one that actually altered the ending itself. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The original cut and subsequent edits. The film premiered on May 23, 1980, with a runtime of approximately 146 minutes. However, within a week of its debut, Kubrick made the unusual decision to cut about 2 minutes from the end of the film, removing an epilogue scene set in a hospital. This means even viewers who saw the film during its very first days of release experienced a slightly different version than those who came just days later. The European cut, which was released later, was significantly shorter and came up to 119 minutes. Many additional scenes were removed. Today, this European version is generally considered the final cut, as it represents Kubrick's final vision for the film. Now, why were these scenes cut in the first place? Well, that depends on who you ask. John Harlan, Kubrick's producer and also his brother-in-law, once said that Kubrick made the cuts after the initial release because the movie did not work the way they hoped. Warner Brothers was also reportedly pushing back, saying the film was too long, too vague. Then there's another theory. Some say Kubrick believed European audiences were more likely to pick up on the subtleties and that American viewers needed more things spelled out. The hospital epilogue. Out of all the deleted scenes from The Shining, none is more infamous than the lost epilogue. This was meant to come right after Jack's frozen body in the maze, the scene we all know as the movie's final moment. But originally, it did not end there. In this version, the film would fade into daylight. Police are on site, combing through the Hedge Maze. But here's the twist. They cannot find Jack's body. It's like he was never there. Then we shift to a hospital where Stuart Ullman, the manager of the Overlook, walks down a corridor. At the reception desk, a nurse is playing a board game with Danny, Snakes and Ladders to be exact. Ullman checks in on Wendy, who's recovering after the traumatic events. He calmly tells her that investigators found no evidence of anything supernatural and no sign of Jack. He chalks it all up to stress and hallucination. Before he leaves, Ullman invites Wendy and Danny to stay at his suite in LA. But just as he turns to go, he stops, smiles at Danny, and says that he almost forgot something. Then he tosses Danny a familiar object, the same tennis ball Jack had earlier used to lure him into room 237. And just like that, it would have transitioned into that iconic closing image, the 1921 photo of Jack at the Overlook's July 4th ball. Now here is where it gets interesting. That version of the film was actually shown in early screenings in LA and New York. Kubrick, curious about how audiences would respond, attended some of these showings himself. What he saw surprised him. When the epilogue came up, audiences viewing the epilogue departed in silence as credits rolled. But when he tested a version without it, the reaction completely changed. People stayed, they talked, they applauded. There was a weird kind of energy in the air, like they were trying to piece it all together. Kubrick had originally written that scene out of care for Wendy and Danny. He wanted to give the audience a moment of relief, a sense that the characters we connected with made it out okay. But when he saw the difference in audience response, he reconsidered his approach. The ambiguity of the abrupt ending clearly resonated more powerfully. It's that ambiguity that has kept people talking for decades. If the epilogue had stayed, it would have tied things up a little too neatly, maybe even softened the blow. The scrapbook. Around the 39-minute mark in the film, there was a moment we were never meant to see, one that could have changed how we understood Jack's obsession with the Overlook. In this deleted scene, after lazily bouncing a tennis ball around the lobby and studying the model of the Hedge Maze, Jack stumbles upon something strange. Scattered across the floor is a trail made from his own writing materials, almost like it's leading him somewhere. He follows it, slowly, into the Colorado Lounge. And there, sitting on his desk, is a scrapbook. As Jack turns the pages, his expression transforms. The scrapbook reveals the Overlook Hotel's blood-soaked history, chronicles of violence and madness that predate his arrival. Everything the hotel wants to hide is bound together in one dusty book. And just like that, Jack's writing project starts to shift. This establishes a foundation for his psychological unraveling in the film. This scene was actually pulled straight from Stephen King's original novel. It was meant to plant the seeds of Jack's deeper connection to the hotel, showing how it was slowly getting under his skin. Co-writer Diane Johnson really pushed to keep it in the final cut, believing it added depth to Jack's unraveling, but Kubrick ultimately left it out. Even though the scene did not make it in, the scrapbook didn't completely vanish. If you look closely, you can still spot it sitting on Jack's desk in a few scenes. And that chilling line he says to Delbert Grady about seeing pictures in the newspaper? Well, that's a subtle nod to this cut moment. The physical scrapbook prop itself survived and is now among other treasures in the Stanley Kubrick archives in London, as a reminder of this narrative that might have changed the viewer's understanding of Jack's descent into madness. This deleted scene would have provided audiences with a clearer explanation of how Jack's fascination with the Overlook began, showing the hotel actively luring him through its dark history. Tales of the Winter Caretaker. Right after the scrapbook scene, there was another scene that was cut. There was a quiet, eerie exchange between Jack and Wendy that never made it to the final cut. It was meant to follow the Tuesday title card, but instead, it ended up on the editing room floor. At this moment, Wendy walks into the Colorado Lounge after navigating the Hedge Maze with Danny. She finds Jack lounging on the couch, totally absorbed in the scrapbook we saw him discover earlier. He doesn't look up, but he does share something. He has found inspiration. He tells her the scrapbook could mean a lot of money for his new writing project. In a moment that would have sent chills down viewers' spines, Jack discovers a photograph of Delbert Grady standing directly outside room 237, the very suite where the Torrance family is staying. This visual connection between past and present caretakers creates an eerie foreshadowing of Jack's fate. What makes this discovery even more unsettling is what follows. Beyond Grady's photograph, the remaining pages are completely blank, as though the hotel itself is inviting Jack to continue the story. After this, Jack, with disturbing confidence, announces the title of his new project, Tales of the Winter Caretaker by Jack Torrance, a winter caretaker. Snowball Fight. After the snowstorm rolls in and the Overlook is sealed off from the outside world, there was a lighter moment planned between the characters, which was cut. In this deleted scene, Wendy and Danny venture into the freshly fallen snow. They are bundled up, laughing, locked in a playful snowball fight. And for once, there is a flicker of normalcy. They urge Jack to join in and play with them, and surprisingly, he does. For a second, it feels like they're just a regular family on a winter holiday. But of course, the warmth does not last. As the snowballs fly, things shift. Jack throws a bit too hard. Maybe he's just playing rough. Maybe something is bubbling under the surface. But after this, Wendy snaps, upset that he's being too aggressive and throwing the snowballs too hard. The moment unravels just as quickly as it came together. Wendy and Danny, the hallway scene. Following the explosive argument with Jack at the 62-minute mark, a scene was filmed showing Wendy desperately carrying an injured Danny through the corridors of the Overlook Hotel. It was never included in the final cut, and for years, barely anyone even knew it existed. That changed when a work print reel, once belonging to Kubrick's longtime assistant, Emilio D'Alessandro, went up for auction. On that reel, there was a glimpse of this scene. In it, Wendy clutches Danny in her arms, rushing him down the eerily quiet hallways. There is no dialogue. It's a scene that could have added even more urgency to Wendy's desperation. No one knows who won the auction and got this reel. It just disappeared, and to this day, the full footage has never been seen by the public. In this scene, after Wendy makes it to her room, we see her cradling Danny, who is now catatonic, in her arms. We also see Jack pounding on the door, asking to be let in. Jack tries his best to kick and break down the door, but eventually ends up walking away. Jack's walk after room 237. At around the 77-minute mark, right after Jack's terrifying encounter in room 237, there was a quiet, unsettling moment that never made it into the final cut. Steadicam operator Ray Andrew once described it. In this scene, Jack is seen wandering the corridors of the Overlook, fresh from his brush with the woman in the bathtub. No music, no dialogue, just the eerie hum of the empty hotel around him. Eventually, Jack makes his way to a balcony that overlooks the Colorado Lounge. He stops and looks down. We see what he sees, the lounge from his perspective. It puts us in Jack's headspace, just for a moment, showing us how he sees the heart of the hotel after what he just experienced upstairs. The Bathtub Woman's story. Right after Jack's uneasy walk through the Overlook, his mind still reeling from what he saw in room 237, there was another moment planned. One that would have added a disturbing layer of context to the woman in the bathtub. In this scene, Jack makes his way back to the Colorado Lounge and sits down at his desk. Waiting for him is the scrapbook, the same one filled with the bloody history of the hotel. He flips it open, and among the clippings, he finds a newspaper article, a story about a woman who took her own life in a hotel bathtub after a lover's quarrel. That woman, we're led to believe, is the very same one he just encountered in room 237. The production team collected actual newspaper reports of bathtub suicides dating back to the 1930s to create authentic-looking clippings for the scrapbook. The Gold Room. At about the 84-minute mark in the film, right after Jack finishes another chilling exchange with Lloyd, Jack turns toward the bar's mirror, and for a brief second, he sees the truth. The well-dressed guests in the Gold Room, the ones sipping cocktails and laughing in frozen time, are all gone. In their place are corpses, bloodied, mutilated, with knives still stuck in their backs. Some of them were nothing more than bare, grinning skeletons. Kubrick was so committed to authenticity that he insisted real human skeletons be used for the scene. And while this particular moment was ultimately cut, those same skeletons do make their way into the final film, appearing during Wendy's frantic run through the lobby at around the 133-minute mark. Howerans Death. In the climax of The Shining, Dick Halloran's death scene was originally filmed with significantly more brutality than what audiences ultimately witnessed. Following the initial axe strike to Halloran's chest that appears in the final cut, a longer sequence was shot. In the earlier cut of the scene, Jack doesn't just strike once and move on. After the initial blow, he flips Halloran over so they are face to face. Wounded and terrified, Halloran pleads for his life. But Jack does not stop. He delivers a final fatal hit with the blunt end of the axe. It was a darker, more drawn-out death, but Stanley Kubrick ultimately pulled back. According to co-writer Diane Johnson, Kubrick felt that too much blood would come off as vulgar. He did not want the scene to turn into a spectacle. Music supervisor Gordon Stainforth also suggested that Kubrick may have been particularly cautious, still haunted by the backlash he received over the violence in A Clockwork Orange. Even though the more graphic version was cut, viewers can spot evidence of this deleted scene in the final film. When Wendy discovers Halloran's body at the 132-minute mark, his corpse is lying on his back, consistent with Jack having turned him over as described in the footage, rather than how he would have fallen from the initial frontal axe blow. Wendy's encounter with Mrs. Grady. Wendy Torrance's journey through the Overlook was originally meant to include several additional supernatural encounters beyond what made it to the theatrical release. Among these deleted scenes was a particularly chilling moment that would have connected more threads of the hotel's bloody history. In the scene, Wendy catches a glimpse of something behind her, reflected in the glass. It is the ghost of Mrs. Grady, soaked in blood, silently looming over her. Just as Wendy screams, the mirror shatters. But the scene was ultimately cut. Shelley Duvall later said it was a scary scene, but she understood why it didn't make the final version. Without proper setup, Mrs. Grady would have been just another ghost rather than a meaningful connection to the hotel's history. Interestingly, what is believed to be the prop head used for Mrs. Grady in that scene can actually be spotted in the Making of The Shining documentary. Game room. At around the 21-minute mark in The Shining, we get our first look at the hotel's game room when Stuart Ullman gives the Torrance family a tour of the Overlook's game room. In this deleted scene, Danny would have become distracted by an arcade cabinet, drawn to the game while his parents continued the tour with Ullman, unknowingly leaving their son behind. It is here alone that Danny first encounters the Grady twins. Now, in the final version, we only get a quick flash of this moment, but in the original screenplay, it played out longer and more eerily. The first time we ever heard the line, "Come and play with us, Danny," was meant to happen here. This extended sequence would have provided an earlier, more direct interaction between Danny and the hotel's ghosts. Alman Leaving. Right after the 34-minute mark, just after Danny's quiet heart-to-heart with Halloran, the film was originally supposed to linger a little longer at the Outlook. Instead of jumping straight to 1 month later, there was a brief but warm scene where Stuart Ullman said his goodbyes. Wendy stands by the door, wishing him a good trip, while Ullman smiles and tells the Torrance family it was a pleasure having met them. His car drives off, leaving the Torrances truly alone for the first time. The camera would have lingered on the family standing outside the massive hotel. Jack, now fully assuming his role as caretaker, would suggest they all head inside to have something to eat and work on getting the television working. This scene would have given us a more gradual transition into the family's isolation. The Hedge Maze. Just before Wendy and Danny step outside to explore the Hedge Maze, around the 38-minute mark, there was originally another quiet but haunting moment planned inside the hotel. In the deleted scene, Wendy and Danny are seen examining the scale model of the maze that sits in the lobby. As they lean in for a closer look, the camera slowly pushes into Danny's face, and right there, something changes. He begins to have a vision, staring at the tiny paths and hedges like they're pulling him into something deeper. What exactly does he see? Well, that was never set in stone. Kubrick planned to finalize his vision in the edit, leaving the vision itself intentionally vague until later. Then, as they step into the real maze outside, what we do see in the finished film, the sequence was originally longer. They reach the center together, and Wendy takes a Polaroid of Danny posing on a bench. A simple, innocent moment. Almost. Kubrick wanted to film an eerie vision of the Grady twins. They would have been standing somewhere in the maze during this scene. However, he never ended up filming this. Jack's fate. One of the eerier visions that never made it to the final cut was a shot of the Hedge Maze model completely covered in snow. In this version, the camera would slowly push in closer and closer until something chilling was revealed tucked inside the tiny replica, a miniature version of Jack's frozen body. It's not clear where this moment would have been in the film. Marvelous verdict. Well, with that, guys, we've come to the end of yet another video. From alternate endings and other scenes that vanished in the editing room, these lost moments show just how much Kubrick shot and how much he chose to leave behind. Whether they would have added clarity or taken away the film's ambiguity is something we will never know for sure. What do you guys think about these scenes? Which of these did you like the most? Which one would you have liked to see on screen? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed watching our video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.